Michael Jackson's Thriller album.
Stories in the Room.
This is Michael Jackson's Thriller album, Stories in the Room. Join film composer Anthony Marinelli, who programmed synthesizers for 7 songs on Thriller, and A&R veteran film producer Stephen Ray, who assisted Quincy Jones and was in the studio every day with Quincy and Michael.
Michael Jackson's Thriller album, Stories in the Room.
I'm Anthony Marinelli with my longtime close friend and co-host, Stephen Ray, bringing you the real stories directly from the talented people in the room with us during the making of Thriller, the greatest selling album of all time.
There was a time when I was talking to someone who was the studio booking manager. I ran into her a few years ago. And she said to me, and she was talking now, I forgot what project it was. It was Michael and John Barnes. It might have been Centipede, or it might have been Captain EO. It was one of those ones. And of course, technology has gotten to the point where you just need one other guy who can program, and all of the instruments can come out of all of this. So she said, when I would walk by the studio, you 3 guys would be in there, and me, Michael, and John Barnes. And she said, the thing that struck me was, you guys were having fun. You were enjoying. I said, that is the key. That is the key to making great music. If you're not enjoying yourself in that moment, and this is what Michael and I shared, was that love of exploration and discovery. I mean, when I was growing up, I was a science geek, space program, technology. I loved everything that was new. And everything mechanical. I love taking stuff apart, and there was always something new to explore. And when I found Michael, it was like I had this kindred spirit, and he loved exploring and discovering. And what happens if well,
Well, what did you guys do when you were sad then, and you had to perform and create these projects? I mean, you were with them a lot, right? And I know I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm sad some days.
Then you write a sad song.
How do you guys handle that?
You tap into that emotion.
You embrace it.
Yeah.
You have to embrace it.
Yeah. Well, you either do that, and usually through doing that, you do that thing neurologically where you get functioning on music, and then the 2 hemispheres of your brain, the brain waves start to become synchronized. And you know something? It's really hard to be in a bad mood when the hemispheres of your brain.
Yeah, because the song starts working and then you're not sad.
That was one of the things
Exactly.
I know Michael shared with me about what he learned from Stevie Wonder, was just that, because he was around all the Motown happy songs. And when he started hanging with Stevie and watching Stevie record and write songs about culture and things that were, they weren't happy.
There's some anger in there too.
Yeah, and he learned from that. He that experience. And that was one of the greatest things he said about being around Stevie, is that he covered all things emotional, joy, sadness, heartbreak, all of it, inspiring, culturally what was happening.
That's what you were saying about his right?
His evolution.
Because the earlier songs,
also too, that was, look at how much Michael learned from Berry Gordy.
Yes.
About being a perfectionist. Making sure that this is right before it goes out the door.
You think the work ethic came from there?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The work ethic initially came from, and I will say this, it came from Joe.
Yeah.
Because they had to, and of course, people all know this, Michael wasn't allowed to go out and play basketball as much because, didn't want to get him hurt, so he was always, because he couldn't do that, he constantly was dancing and rehearsing and dancing.
And he was also a severe disciplinarian.
Yes.
So he was driven to make the Jacksons,
yes.
Jackson 5,
yes.
The band, the best that they possibly could be, because he knew the bar was set very high. And that Michael, that was a huge influence on Michael's life. But this is the thing that set everything in motion because all the components in Michael's life, the conditioning that he received at every different point in his life, was just added on to that other thing, and it was yet one more component that moved him further.
Many times over the years when I've been on panels and people ask me, God, that whole question, everyone always asks, you guys must have known something. Did you know something? And my response is the same as was back then, was that what we knew is that we really enjoyed being with each other every day.
Oh, yeah.
That's always my response. That's what we knew. We knew that I loved showing up and walking into the studio every day.
Yep.
No matter how long the days were, the energy was so beautiful that that's what we knew. We enjoyed each other.
Yeah.
Musicians would come and go until you said something earlier that I remember so clearly, the look on Ndugu's face where he heard the drums back and he went, whoa, because you and Bruce were giving him a sound that he hadn't heard in another session. And then I remember musicians sometimes, if they didn't have another session right after Thriller, they'd want to hang out. Hey man, you mind if and Quincy was like, yeah man, go over there and sit down, man. Yeah. Because they loved being in that energy.
Well, you talk about people being influential in your lives. You see, my father was tremendously influential to me, because when I was young growing up, and I loved stuff mechanical, and I loved building and designing, and I had a workshop, or my dad had a workshop and their tools, and I started making stuff out of wood, and I'd ask my dad, now I want to do this, and my dad would look at me and say, figure it out. I cannot tell you how many times in my life I heard my dad say to me, figure it out. And I'd go, oh, he doesn't want to tell me, so I got to figure it out. But that was the thing that when I got into music, the thing I had to figure out was that thing that I was hearing in music and responding to. And that was my dad instilled that in me, the way Joe instilled what he instilled in the brothers and in Michael. And, these are the things that we carry through our lives, these conditioning factors. When you look back and you really take a hard, cold examination of facts, you go like, yeah, I see. Maybe there was a teacher that you had at some grade in school that inspired you.
Absolutely.
That didn't treat you like, you often got treated. And there was just something that just changed your perspective and made you think a little different. And that's the stuff that expands, that creates the geeking out, the neural pathways, the neural plasticity that allows growth. And when you're able to do that, when you're able to go into creative things and create things that haven't been done before, or have imagination, like you want to do something and it's how do you do it? Well, you figure out how.
Join us for the next episode of Michael Jackson's Thriller album, Stories in the Room, with your hosts Anthony Marinelli and Stephen Ray. Watch our extended interviews on youtube.com/@StoriesInTheRoom. Audio-only interviews are available on all podcast networks. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok @StoriesInTheRoom. For the latest news and links, visit the website, storiesintheroom.com. This podcast is produced by Christian D. Bruun and David Wolf, recorded by Audivita Studios. Additional recording by Ben Rackless. Edited by Jay Spang and Sean Hedinger. Music by Anthony Marinelli and Stephen Ray.
Michael Jackson's Thriller album.